We call the Colerain Township Zoning Commission meeting, regular meeting for Tuesday, December 21st, 2021 to order. Please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Mr. Ailey, could we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Faring. Here. Ms. McMullen.
Here.
Mrs. Smith. Mr. Gehring.
Here.
Mr. Grody.
Here. In the absence of Mrs. Smith, Mr. Westfall, would you come forward and be seated, please? And if we would let the minutes reflect that. Okay. We welcome everyone who is present here this evening to the meeting, and we also extend a welcome to those who are tuning in at home. So we're glad to have you. We ask everyone present to please silence their electronic devices so it will not impede with our taping or videoing. And commissioners, if you'll make sure that your microphones are on, would be appreciated. The first item on the agenda is the approval of the September 21st minutes, which I think have been placed in front of you. So if you would take a moment, please, to review those. I'll give everybody a few moments to take a look at it since we have not had a chance to look at these ahead of time.
And actually, on that note, I was hoping, is there a way that we could delay the approval, as we haven't really had a chance to completely read the minutes from the last meeting?
So you're asking for it to be delayed
Yes, please.
till the end of the meeting or next meeting?
To our next meeting,
To
and we
our
can
next
just review tonight's minutes as well as the September's.
Do we need a motion on that, sir?
Yeah, you should probably make a motion.
Okay.
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 Do you need me
We
to
could have
motion?
we could have a motion to that effect.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to table the minutes from the Tuesday, September 21st, 2021 meeting until our next meeting.
Okay.
I'll second
Is
it.
there a second? Mark, you seconded?
Yeah.
Okay. Is there any further discussion on that motion? Mr. Ailey, could we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Faring.
Yes.
Ms. McMullen.
Yes.
Mr. Westfall.
Aye.
Mr. Gehring.
Yes.
Mr. Grody.
Yes. So the minutes will be tabled until our next meeting. The next item on the agenda is public address. This is the part of the meeting where we invite anyone present to address the commission about any topic that is not on the agenda. So are there any persons who wish to do so? Hearing and seeing none, we will move on. Mr. Alig, any final development plans this evening?
No, sir.
No, okay. This moves us to our public hearings portion of the agenda. First case is ZA 2021-07, which is a zoning text amendment in relation to mobile food service units. Mr. Ailey, does the staff have a presentation?
We do, sir. I'd like to start, if I could, one with a brief apology for being unprepared last time. Sort of tossed into it pretty quickly and didn't have a good understanding of what was going on. I hope I have since grasped that, and if you have any questions going forward, please let me know. So this is to discuss, remember, ZA 2021-07, a zoning text amendment for mobile food service. I know, as it's been said before in other meetings, we've visited this a few times. If you wouldn't mind, I'd like to sort of kind of cover what brought us to this point, and then what we hope to achieve from tonight's meeting going forward. So initially, food trucks were permitted pretty much anywhere with either temporary use certificate through zoning or through the transient vendor application through the police department. If they received one of those, it was good for 180 days at a cost of $150, and there was really no regulation on that as far as zoning was concerned. I don't want to say it's a free-for-all, but we didn't really have any good ordinances in place to address a lot of concerns that were brought up. If I could kind of recap, I know it's in the minutes, I apologize, I know they're prepared late. No good excuse for that, but a lot of items that were brought up in the meeting in September that have been addressed in the current proposal. Would you mind if I just kind of do a real quick cover of those? And I'll also cover the ones I haven't addressed. I'm going to ask the board's the commission's recommendation on that. So the items that were addressed: better description of the front setback, safety issues, those to include propane tanks, wires, hoses, things like that, health department certification, as well as a fire department inspection, just sort of a better handle on the whole process. The items that I haven't addressed yet, but I hope to get your recommendation modification on to present to the trustees, would be setback from adjoining restaurants, and as well as a solid expiration of the zoning certificate that the commission sees fit. With that, we'll go through a few generic pictures that we covered last time, just because it helps sort of spur our appetite. Those would be some of the best case scenarios, obviously, and I know that one of our largest concerns here is probably not so much these establishments, but the other establishments that wouldn't be as presentable or as nice or as appetizing maybe as this. Again, this is proposed in the B1, the local neighborhood business district. There are about 9 such districts in the township. One of them for sure is omitted from this because it is solely a residential area. We'll kind of cover that part later if there's any questions on that. Here's just a little, there are 3 B1 districts in the northern part of the township, generally along Kemper there for the most part, and then the rest are down here in the southeastern part of the township. There are 2 that are within proximity of Colerain Avenue. There are no B1 districts that directly front Colerain Avenue. You see there's a few over on Pippin, and then a few on Cheviot, and then moving up Blue Rock as Cheviot turns to Blue Rock, or vice versa there. This is a letter which is on your desk or in front of you, just a copy from an email from Captain Walsh. And if you don't mind, I'll just read that real fast. I reached out to him for his opinion on this. He said, Jared, Colerain Township Fire Department does use the check sheet. He is referencing the check sheet I placed in the packet that was delivered to you from the state of Ohio. That's their fire code. The Southwest Ohio Fire Official Associations has met with the Food Truck Association back in 2015 regarding the Ohio Fire Code requirements for all food truck operators and the new check sheet. Again, referencing that check sheet for the Ohio Fire Code. All food truck vendors should contact us, the fire department, prior to doing any business within the township so we may conduct a safety inspection and or to check if the truck has had a previous safety inspection from a recognized fire department. The inspection must be within a 1-year period, with inspections done yearly. The issue we are having is not all vendors contact us prior to, unless they're working at a township event or community event. I would like to see a resolution that requires all food truck vendors contact the fire department prior to operating in the township to ensure all safety requirements are in place before operations. If you have any other questions, please let me know. Mark, it would be Captain Walsh. We have included that language in this proposal. If you don't mind, as we get to that part, I'll point that out when we get there. Moving into the proposal, everything on the front has sort of stayed the same. Just to show you where we highlight this as an approved use, permitted only in the B1 district with conditions. And then moving on to those conditions are listed in 8.4.15 mobile food services. Definitions are fairly unchanged. No large changes have been made from the last time it was presented till now. I'll just include a few things that were necessary because a few more subsections were added. Subsection number B, B is in Bravo. in there, that was to try and cover if a food truck, mobile food service wanted to switch locations, they're only approved for specific locations. So they would come, they would apply to us, they can only go into B1 area, but they would be approved for one specific location in that area. This is just sort of to say, if they would ever want to relocate, they would at least have to have the approval of the zoning administrator, and sort of depending on some factors of basically whether or not they had been a desirable food service, absent of complaints or violations, it would give the ability to either reissue a fee or not. Again, none of these are set in stone. We're just going through trying to get approval, or feedback, leading to approval. So Part C is where we incorporate a lot of what was discussed in the last meeting. The applicant shall provide the zoning administrator with a copy of a valid license to conduct a mobile food service operation as issued by the Hamilton County Department of Public Health. Therefore, the mobile food service operation would have to have passed an inspection, which was included in the, misspelled at the time, pardon me for that, the relevant documents attached. So they would have to have their approved certificate from the Hamilton County Health Department and show that to the zoning administrator, or zoning department, prior to receiving any zoning certificate, which that was brought up in the meeting last time. Then also, getting to Captain Walsh's statement, the applicant shall receive approval from the Colerain Township Fire Department and provide evidence of such approval to the zoning administrator. Again, both of those are prior to receiving the zoning certificate. Addressing some of the issues that were brought up with the 5-foot front yard setback, which was not worded well, and again, my apologies on that. This is coming into the 100 feet from a local or established restaurant, and hopefully we can discuss that at the end and get a good recommendation from the zoning commission on that. But that was 5 feet from the right of way. Generally, on most, I'm probably gonna end up with a little bit of misstatement here, but generally the right of way is a 60-foot wide right of way, being 30 feet from the center line of the road, extending 30 feet out towards the parcel. So this would essentially be a 35-foot front yard setback. That's not from the end of the street. Generally, the right-of-way extends well beyond the end of the street, and usually, not always, but typically, is at the structure side of the sidewalk. So if you're standing in the center line of the street, the far end of the sidewalk, it'd be that plus 5 feet. What this is reworded to say, there were a lot of feedback on that last time. Then also, if the right-of-way hadn't been established, which it hasn't been in all cases along roads, or it's not reflected on the parcel, if we go to view it on cages, something like that, in here, it would just be a standard setback of 40 feet per subsection B there. And then if in any of those situations, regardless of whether there's a right-of-way established or not, if there's something unique to that specific parcel or that area that looks unsafe, or that I or anyone in the department feel might be unsafe, we'd have the ability to increase that setback to accommodate for that. That was a big point of feedback noted from the meeting. Side and rear yard setbacks, no big change there. Basically, if it is adjacent to a residential district, the side or rear yard setback would apply based on whether the mobile food service was near the side yard or in the rear yard. They would have to meet that setback on their proposed site plan before receiving their zoning certificate. Same thing, 10 feet, cannot be within 10 feet of a fire hydrant. Will not impede site clearance or traffic circulation. And then mobile food service operations shall remain clear from the site triangle of all intersections and vehicular access points on a property. Again, just trying to give us the ability to make sure no unsafe conditions are created as far as visibility with the establishment of a mobile food service. No change in the density. Hours of operation, I believe there's no change there. No change in Part G, golf, for minimum 4 parking spaces for the mobile food service to be located. Part H is where that immediately eliminates 1, potentially 2 B1 districts where no mobile food service can be operated and property used exclusively for residential services. So again, we're trying to have this in kind of our small business hubs where there may not be a lot of other things going on, but definitely nowhere where there's residential or exclusive residential use going on there. No noise or sound. Changed a little bit the signage, allowed for 16 square feet. The rationale for that, not that I'm married to it, it was just if you had a 4x8 sheet of plywood and cut it in half, it'd be a pretty simple thing to figure out. Nothing big there, but it give a little bit more than there was 9 proposed before. No permit being required for that signage or anything on that nature. Come down here to, if you come to M as in Mike, there was a point of discussion at the last meeting about whether the days were continuous or consecutive or not. In here, I attempted to clarify that if the operation was taking place for 20 consecutive days, then at that point, the mobile food service would be required to set up like picnic tables or some type of accommodations to have participants sit and eat. No change in the exterior material or anything like that. Retail merchandise still cannot be sold unless it's related to the food or beverage there. No alcoholic beverages by mobile food service operation. We did get into a change in P for Papa. In addition to complying with the Colerain Township resolutions related to mobile food service operation, the owner and operator of a food truck is responsible for applying for and obtaining all other necessary licenses required for the service of food and beverages, in addition to the operation of any vehicle associated with the service of food and beverages. Kind of a generic blanket statement, but basically sort of anything that exists there. They're responsible for doing insurance, registration as well on the vehicle. Coming down to Part R for Romeo, the Colerain Township Police Department, Fire Department, and/or Department of Planning and Zoning maintains the right to issue an order to immediately cease operations of any mobile food service or require the mobile food service to relocate where, in the opinion of the department, the mobile food service operation is causing or contributing to an imminent public safety hazard. Again, added for, based on September's meeting, it was clear we needed a strong ability to immediately rectify a problem. I hope that this is clear and concise enough and meets that. And again, being that, unfortunately, on the administration side, generally, although every once in a while we're here on the weekends, we don't typically operate on the weekend. I detest having to sort of pass the buck to the fire department or police department. However, in this scenario, at least the option exists, especially considering if there's an imminent public safety hazard or threat, just to sort of cover our base on that. Also, that I sort of revisited this part, Section S for Sierra. Mobile food service operations that have ceased operations for a period exceeding 4 continuous days shall be required to vacate the site. Basically, they would not lose their status to operate there, but if they were not operating for 4 continuous days or greater, they would be required by the zoning resolution to vacate the site, to move their apparatus, whatever it was, motorized or not, from the site. Then they would come back without any approval needed, based on how it's written here, set up, continue, and then again, same thing would apply. 4 days may seem arbitrary. Again, sort of trying to address our mobility or lack thereof sometimes in our department. If we received a complaint over the weekend, we could immediately go out there Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, by Friday, had it not been abated, and by some necessary means, at that point, we know we'd have a violation. It'd be clear cut. It'd be pretty quick and easy, as well as I think we could, to go ahead and revoke that certificate if that was required at that point in time. Part T for Tango, under no circumstances shall a mobile food service operation cause or contribute to any unsafe or unsanitary environmental or physical condition or conditions, including but not limited to tripping or stumbling hazards due to cords, hoses, piping, or any other element used in the operation of the mobile food service. All reasonable measures will be employed by the mobile food service to secure and make safe their approved area of operations. Again, a direct, that's what's causing that. Pardon me. I kept wondering why the screen was flickering. It's my foot hitting a cable down there. I apologize. That was a direct response to issues brought to light about maybe some loose propane tanks, hoses, Again, any type of hazard created, obviously, that's the last thing we want to promote or in any way encourage, and this gives us, I believe, the strong ability to regulate that. And absolutely, no discharge of gray water or black water is permitted by a mobile food service that is not in compliance with Hamilton County Department of Public Health regulations. Part U for uniform, all mobile food service operations must adhere at all times to all applicable federal, state, county, and local ordinances, laws, resolutions, and regulations, specifically but not limited to the 2017 Ohio Fire Code, OFC Section 320. I've already been advised by Mr. Solomon to add in any updates preceding that one. Hamilton County Department of Public Health Regulations, Ohio Revised Code, Section 3717.01 through 3717.99. That's the ORC where they regulate retail food establishment and food service operations. They already have to adhere to that, but again, this just would give us the ability, if they did not, we would have them for a violation of that and could use that as grounds to revoke the certificate. And then Part 4 would be Occupational Safety and Health Administration, 1910 subpart J, .144A3, and that is OSHA's standard basically for marking any type of trip hazard. That was presented there on your desk to you. Should have been, I hope it was. And basically what that reads, it's the last one on that page. Yellow shall be the basic color for designating caution and for making physical hazards such as striking against, stumbling, falling, tripping, and caught in between. So that's the standard we use. They would have to mark it in some fashion according to OSHA standard, or be in violation of our zoning resolution if this is passed as such. Then also, again, direct response to the meeting in September. Part V for Victor, written approval from the zoning administrator shall be required prior to the application and installation of any temporary electric service related to mobile food operations. Prior to the approval of the location of the temporary electric service, the zoning administrator shall determine the methods that shall be used to screen, landscape, or make the temporary electric service as aesthetically pleasing as practicable. In no means do we want to encourage that setup. However, if one were to exist, we would want to maintain the ability to regulate it and try and make it as aesthetically pleasing as possible. The other part, I added a definition for mobile food service unit, and that's there as well. I'll read it just for meeting's sake, if that's okay. Mobile food service unit definition to be added to Article 16.2 are definitions: any apparatus or equipment that is used to cook, prepare, or serve food and that routinely changes or can change location and is operated from a movable vehicle or apparatus, including but not limited to motorized vehicles, trailers, and hand-propelled carts. Also attached was the proposed fees. I apologize for that. I did not know that those had actually already been established last time. I was instructed by Mr. Kohler post-meeting last time that they were. They are attached and affixed to the packet. It would, at this point, again, could be modified. It lists $150 for the certificate. I'll go through, there are a few aspects where the mobile food service does align with the comprehensive plan, the Imagine Colerain plan, just sort of trying to create new economic opportunity. I do know that there is a desire to hopefully create kind of small community events where we may have some regular, well, I guess popular, for lack of a better term, popular food services, mobile food services. That is the intent behind this. Just so you know sort of what the administration side is shooting for and what was passed on to us regarding that. It's sort of the why of it all. That concludes my presentation on this. Again, the same approval criteria would apply for any zoning text amendment or zoning map amendment. The amendment is in accordance with the Colerain Township Comprehensive Plan, Colerain Township Land Use Plan, and other adopted plans and policies of the township. And this resolution is adopted by the Board of Township Trustees. When more than one zoning district is available to implement the comprehensive plan or land use designation, the applicant must justify the particular zoning being sought and show that it is best suited for the specific site based upon the policies of the Colerain Township Comprehensive Plan. It is our belief, B1 local neighborhood businesses would be the best suited. As was brought to my attention last meeting, I was fairly ignorant about some of the businesses that exist in B1. While I'm not quite too less ignorant, I'm a little bit better versed. When I did pass through, I noticed approximately 3 or 4 food establishments. One would sort of most notable, well, I shouldn't say that, but one maybe prominent would be like the Grace of India near the Blue Rock Road area there, banning. But beyond that, it's a lot of bars, a lot of salons, some auto shops, but we do have a lot of vacant properties and in the B1 districts, and maybe slightly dilapidated in some people's opinions. And we're hoping that this would be some avenue to help spur economic growth, activity, something there. And we also feel that being in B1, it would not directly threaten a lot of the retail establishments, the mainstream places like in B2. Whereas, again, before in the transit vendor license, there was no regulation about, regardless of the location per zoning district. This is our attempt to say, okay, there's a desire for the community to have it. We're trying to meet that as best as we can. That concludes my presentation.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Ailey.
Thank you, sir.
Commissioners, questions or comments for Mr. Ailey before we move to a public hearing?
I have a few. Did a little bit of studying on this the last couple of days. And I also pulled up some of the things that Hamilton County does and Butler County does for their food trucks, and I can give this to you at the end of the meeting. But I guess the thing that I'm against most is how long they're there. And I know at the last meeting when we hashed through this, it was 30 days, and then they could get more permits to stay there with no limitation. And here's what our surrounding counties are doing. Butler County is 40 days, period. After that, they move on. Hamilton County is 30 days, and they can get 2 additional 30-day permits after that. Then they have to move on. They're supposed to be mobile units, so I don't think that's a bad policy there. Some of my other issues, you know, they talk about gray water and black water and all that. What do they do if they're there for 2 weeks? These trucks are not gonna hold that kind of water, you know, and you're saying you don't want them dumped on parking lots and stuff. You know, I would say probably at best they're holding 30, 50 gallons. If they're cleaning the place like the Board of Health regulates, I think that would be a real issue at 30 days. So I don't know if we should put something in there that they have to show some type of records of what they're doing with that, so that they're not blowing it out on the parking lot in the middle of the night. But other than that, I think what you've addressed in since the last meeting is good. We've addressed a lot of the issues. So, and enforcement, I think just enforcement is going to be our biggest issue. You know, you can throw down all the guidelines you want and all the rules you want, and if we're not checking it, they're going to blow right by us. I talked to a real good friend of mine that's in the city of Cincinnati. They have all kinds of guidelines, and he says their worst, what do I want to say, the worst case they have is right in front of the Board of Health on Central Parkway. A guy's been selling stuff out there for months on end with nobody checking on it. So here again, like I say, you can have all the rules in the world, but if nobody's going to check up on it, nobody's going to police it, we're going to have some bad situations. But I think you're right in what you're doing. You know, we didn't have much regulation before. I don't think we realized that they could go get a cheap permit and put up wherever they want. So I think this is heading in the right direction. But like I say, we just got to be able to police it. So that's all I got.
Thank you, sir.
Commissioners?
I have a follow-up question for Mr. Faring. In the case where they can reapply, so 30 days and 30 days and 30 days, do they have to move locations?
No. In Hamilton County, they're allowed to stay there. They just have to get additional permits, but it's only good for a total of 90 days. Then they have to move. But 30 days without renewing their permit. So like in this case here with us, it would be $150 every 30 days to renew and show that they're still in good standings with all their other permits. Butler County is just 40 days, period. That's, after 40 days, you're moving.
Just moving locations, reapply, get a new license.
Reapplying, going somewhere else, you know, new license, what have you. And they do quite a bit of it up there. If you've been up along the river there, you know, they have a pretty neat program there, with music and stuff on the weekends, so they're probably ones that you might want to look at and see how they're attacking it.
Along that same vein, Mr. Ailing, I didn't see specifically in here where it says what the limit really is.
Yeah, yes, sir. And that's what I attempted to address at the beginning of the meeting. There were all the issues that were brought up at the last meeting
Yes.
that I felt comfortable addressing. I did. The elements I have not addressed would be a setback, that was brought to light last meeting, setbacks from adjoining restaurants, either the expiration of the zoning certificate or the location, and that's where I'm sort of leaning on the commission. I appreciate your input so far, Mr. Faring, to just give us guidance on that. So, and then also if I kind of take one quick step back and sort of clarify, our goal and intent here, per our zoning resolution, is to get some recommendation from the commission to the Board of Trustees. So it'll go from this process here where the zoning commission says, you know, this is good, this is not good, add this, add this, add this. I'll add that. I'll submit that to the township administrator, Mr. Mills. He'll take everything that we've put together so far, and if he feels any tweaks need to be made or adjusted before presenting to the Board of Trustees, he'll present it to them, and then they will make the final maybe tweaks or you know, adjustments that may or may not need to be made. So again, to sort of step back and address, if there's anything that you want to see in here that you'd like us to include in that packet to go to the Board of Trustees, this is the time and place we do. So if you want a limitation of 30 days on a location, and then they have to move, or some type of, you know, they have a 30-day period, then you know, 2 renewal periods at that location, then they have to move, reapply and move, or can't reapply, something like that. It's whatever the commission feels is best for the community. I'll take that, add it the same way I revised the plan from last time, incorporate into that, and then we'll submit that. That'll be the zoning commission's recommendation to the board, for approval with modifications, or for denial of what we have here. Pardon me.
So if I hear you correctly, assuming we approve what you have presented to us tonight, along with, let's say, A, B, C, and D recommendations, then you would adjust that language, et cetera. Does that need to come back to us before it goes to the trustees?
Per our resolution, it does not need to, and it would not. I would put the packet together and present it to Mr. Mills with the resolution and say, here's what administration, what staff proposed. Here were the modifications, if any, from the zoning commission, which I'm expecting some. That's why I highlighted those 2 areas, one addressed. And then that part, so this part was approved, this part was approved, you know, with these modifications, or the whole thing total was denied. And then whatever that outcome is, verbatim, I would send that to the Board of Trustees.
If I can just clarify that 30 days in here, it does say 30 days at one location, renewable up to 2 additional times for a total of 90 days per calendar year at that single location.
You're referencing the Hamilton County one just for the...
That's Hamilton County,
Okay,
yes,
thank you,
yes.
sir.
Yeah, so it would be a total of 90 days to answer your question at that location.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm a little more operational oriented, I guess, because I sit down and say, how the devil are you going to be able to regulate that? Okay, let's take a look at these 5. If there are 20 food trucks in Colerain Township, and Mark comes in on the 15th with his food truck, so the 15th of the month, he's applying for a 30-day extension to the same spot. On the 20th of the month, I had come in with mine, so I had have applied for a 30-day extension on the 20th. I mean, it just becomes a menagerie to track not only is this the first extension, the second extension, or the third extension, and frankly, I'm the kind of person I am. I can't speak for Mark, but in my food truck, I may say, okay, I can only stay here 90 days. I'll talk to Mark, the guy next to me, and say, okay, Mark, let's swap positions. We've moved, so I'm in the same place, only 20 feet down. He's 20 feet up. We've met the requirement there. I mean, it could really get into a menagerie, not only of trying to monitor it and watch it, but to enforce it. I mean, I think it's unenforceable, really. Unless you want to hire somebody to do nothing and have a computer program that tracks this stuff, who's where, when, and I mean, all they have to do is move 30 feet, and they're outside, they're in a new spot. So I like the idea of saying you can only go for so long, but on the converse, I don't know that you can enforce it.
Appreciate it, sir. Thank you.
I understand it, but to touch on that, Bruce, and I looked into this big time on what other people are doing, and I think other counties have been faced with the same thing you're faced with. Up until now, I didn't realize neither. Your hands are sort of tied. They can go get a lousy, what's the permit they call it?
Transient vendor.
Yeah, transit vendor and set up in your driveway.
Oh, I think this is great
Right.
regulation.
Oh, I understand what you're saying, but I mean, right now, we realistically don't have any jurisdiction over it.
That's right.
So,
It's just the time frame. I don't know that you're going to be able to monitor.
Well, and the reality is that these places will have to go ahead and keep that themselves. What generally happens with respect to most regulations is if there's an issue, okay, hey,
Yeah. Then
well,
it's a
okay,
problem.
what else are they not complying with? If there's a problem, then it's amazing how many more other violations. Okay, hey, they didn't do this, and that. Next time they apply, guess who's not getting the
Yeah,
who's gonna be
that's
denied?
when you're going to catch it. Otherwise, you're going to have somebody go around every day to every truck, monitor their certificate of where they're at and where they're supposed to be. And today they're not here because they were off today and they decided to work tomorrow, so now they're back. So it's every day you dip. It just seems to me.
There are definitely some logistical challenges, as there always are, in trying to enforce all the zoning regulations.
Sure.
Not that I am looking forward to the additional challenges, but however, I do believe the intent is here to serve the community. I fully expect we're going to have problems.
Yeah.
That's life, and especially life in zoning. Again, any recommendations, if you want, maybe they have to be out, after the 2 additional renewals, they have to be at a different parcel. We have leeway to make those recommendations and modifications. I highly encourage, you guys are seeing great things. I didn't even, I think of we have 3 segments. We have the top tier. They're going to be popular. People are going to love them. They're going to get a lot of the business. We're going to have a general chunk in the middle, kind of Pareto distribution. They're good, but they're not a huge hit. And we're going to have those ones.
Oh, yeah, those are the ones.
And my biggest concern, making sure that we have a good, strong language to handle those ones, that we have a fair zoning certificate application process to get the majority. It's not, too strict, but by no means too lenient. And hopefully we find a way to encourage those really top performers that citizens, residents love, and promote that. It's an attempt to do that. There are going to be some challenges, and it will be fairly simple to track based on the site plan they'll have to submit to our office. The location of that place, that vendor at that time, and if you want some language in there, the next location has to be 100 or 250 feet or
I'm not
something like that.
Yeah, I'm not suggesting that. I'm just
Sure,
saying.
we could do that.
I think those are going to be part of the problems. If you see it becomes a problem, then yeah, I would expect that you'd come back and say, hey, this is a problem. We want wording that you have to be 200 yards away or whatever. Okay, I don't know. You can anticipate everything going out. It's just going to be a tough problem to manage, that's all.
Our code enforcement officer is going to look forward to it. We'll keep them, some job security for them. But again, we will have some very good food truck, mobile food service operators. So that'll help hopefully balance it out.
I think you're gonna eliminate a lot of them just by what you're doing here. You have the forms now, the permits and all that bit. You know who's above the board. You have that list of people that pull permits. You drive down the road, you see somebody and you don't even know who that is. That's a pretty easy one to catch.
Exactly, sir. And it was referenced last time, the one at the Kirkwood location, that had the temporary electric service, you mentioned that. We didn't have anything we go after them for, right? I mean, they were there. This is at least, sort of step one in the process of saying, okay, we want it here, but we want it done right or correctly, pardon my.
Right, and I think in the instance that you guys brought up with, perhaps flip-flopping, A on here is that it's with written permission of the property owner, so I feel like we're putting a little bit of a burden on that property owner to manage some of the food truck activity that's happening at their location. So hopefully the businesses that are allowing this are stepping up with a little bit of enforcement on this topic as well.
So in essence, this is going to be an annual application process for each vendor from one year to the next, because obviously they may not be out there during the winter months.
At this moment, I have not included any termination date or language in here.
Okay.
So that's why I'm kind of
Asking for that.
asking the commission's guidance on that. What do you think would be best for the community, for these neighborhoods? Specifically, you know, if there are programs where, you know, maybe we have something like, you know, if you don't have any violations or anything like that, and you're a good student, maybe you don't, maybe you do, maybe, I don't know. But maybe we put something in there like that.
Okay.
Right, being a township located in Hamilton County, I favor consistency in the regulations as well. So Mr. Faring's notice to us, you know, regarding the Hamilton County rules, I'm definitely a fan of incorporating.
And Al, they charge them a new permit fee for each 30 days. So it's not like good for a year, it's, you know,
Mr. Elegant, item H, located on property, private property or residential purposes. What about a community that's having a block party or a community group? If they're just having a one-day block party for people in their area, can they get food trucks in there or not?
They definitely could. It may not be best to go this process. They would want to do the temporary use certificate.
Okay,
So that may be the best route for them on that.
okay. And then on item T2, I have read that statement so many times, and it just seems to me that it said discharge of gray water or black water is permitted by mobile food service. You know, that is not in compliance. Does that imply that if it's in compliance, they can discharge their water?
Yeah, yes, sir. And that's to try and address a point Mr. Faring brought, that the tanks on the, I'm not that well versed in the exact operation of these units. To me, in a sense, you know, you're making food, you're obviously creating wastewater of some type. That is my sort of cheap trick of diverting to whatever the health department says is acceptable.
Oh, okay.
And then also, as Mr. Fairman said, I was thinking it'd be a good idea on their submittal to include in their plan, you know, what is your plan for discharging this? You know, tell me before I issue your zoning certificate, how are you gonna get rid of your wastewater? Where's it gonna be? Oh, I'm gonna open my valve and just, you know, let it run down the gutter. Oh, well, okay, I appreciate your honesty, but unfortunately, I'm gonna have to die, that kind of thing. You know, do you actually have an idea, an intent of operation? And hopefully we may get some good input tonight about you know, methods that some mobile food service operators use and employ that. Again, I don't think we're gonna, this is written to kind of like a catch-all of the people not following the rules. The people who are good and do follow rules, they'll breeze right through. That's the intent, right? They'll breeze right through and they'll operate and they'll be a good member. This is just to try and say, hey, you know, if it's approved by the health department, then kind of keeping Ms. McMullen with your theory, and which I agree with, because we have enough rules. We don't need to change it. If it's good enough for the Department of Health, I believe it would be good enough for the township.
Okay. Commissioners, any other comments, questions?
just real quick on that, Al, what they typically do in other places, that unit either has to be tied to a sewer, or they do what we call pump and haul, where they would have a ticket from the hauler saying, hey, we pumped this tank out, you know, on this date, and it went to MSD. So that's how that's pretty much regulated in the county.
Okay. Mr. Solomon, I have a question for you. Last meeting, even though this matter was tabled, we did have a public hearing on it. Do we need another public hearing tonight?
I would go ahead and have a public hearing, just to go ahead and make sure it was open and closed last time.
Okay,
And unfortunately, I wasn't here at that meeting, but I think just to be on the safe side, there can be no argument then that someone wasn't heard, so to speak.
Okay.
So I would, and it doesn't look like we have that many people here.
Well, plus, new language has been introduced that may have been different.
That's actually very accurate as well.
Yeah,
Another
okay.
reason in favor.
So at this time, I need a motion from someone to open public hearing.
So approved, so moved.
I'll second.
Okay? Any discussion on that motion? Could we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Ferring,
Yes.
Ms. McMullen,
Yes.
Mr. Westfall, Mr. Gearing,
Yes.
Mr. Grody.
Yes. Is there anyone present this evening who wanted to speak or signed up to speak on this issue? Hearing none, I need a motion to close public hearing.
So moved. I'll second it.
Looks like that was a good decision.
We're moving too fast. You up with us?
No, yes, sir.
Okay, all right. So it's been moved and seconded to close public hearing. Any discussion on this motion? Can we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Ferring,
Yes.
Ms. McMullen,
Yes.
Mr. Westfall, Mr. Gearing,
Yes.
Mr. Grody.
Yes. Okay, finishing with public hearing. And if there are no more questions or comments for staff, the chair will entertain a motion of some sort regarding this matter.
So I know there's a lot of language that we spoke of to include in this motion. So I'll need help making sure that we get everything in it that we would like. But I would like to make a motion to approve ZA 2021-07, the zoning text amendment for mobile food service, with the inclusion of the Hamilton County information regarding their operation of certificates and the double renewal period that we spoke of.
This is the only copy I have.
And then from my notes, I don't see where we made any other modifications to what was presented to us. So I believe that is the end of my additions into the motion. But if I'm incorrect in that, let me know.
Okay. Do we have a second to that motion?
Second.
Okay. Now let's open the floor for discussion and/or clarification of just exactly what is being recommended to add. Commissioners, the floor is open for us to discuss.
Mr. Ferring, now might be a good time. I don't know if you want to hand that to Mr. Grody, just to include that in the official record.
You want to just read it?
Oh, okay, you want me to read it? That's it. All right, now you're,
As long as you just get a copy of it.
Okay.
You can put it in the minutes.
it's quite long. You want me to read
Hold
it?
on, sir.
Okay.
Sorry, I didn't mean it in a disrespectful way.
You can also reference the fact that it's a specific section from the county.
Yeah, it's 11-4.9, mobile food vending services, Hamilton County zoning resolution.
And is there a specific?
Page 11-3. Mobile food vending services, food trucks shall be permitted only in commercial zoning districts, provided that all of the following criteria are met. The mobile food vending service must be located entirely on private property and shall not be located in any required setback, site distance, triangle, buffer, or public right-of-way. Any operator of a mobile food vending service must receive and display a valid zoning certificate. The maximum duration of the mobile food vending service permit is for 30 days at one location, renewable up to 2 additional times for a total period of 90 days per calendar year at a single location. The operator of the mobile food vending service shall obtain in writing the permission of the property owner to operate on his property and shall submit a copy as part of the zoning certificate application. Trash receptacles must be provided for customers to dispose of food wrappers, food utensils, paper products, cans, bottles, food, and other such waste. Such receptacles shall be located not more than 10 feet from the mobile food vendor. The hours of operation shall be between 7 a.m. and 10 p.m. The vendor shall not locate in any minimum required parking spaces for other businesses on the site. The mobile food vendor must meet all applicable local and state codes. And they have a whole, I can get you their application, they have a whole list of everything that you need to do as far as Board of Health approval and all that bit.
Thank you, sir.
And one additional
I'm
question.
sorry, as far as clarification, we're just looking to take a section with respect to the period of time in regards to, is that what you were looking, just to take that section?
Yeah, basically the time and like the garbage cans and all that bit, you know, it has to be
Which,
put on site.
yeah, we already have that part in our,
I believe we do.
We do have a conflict, though. We say that they can operate Sunday through Thursday, 7 till 10, Friday through Saturday, 7 to 11, where this one says 7 to 10 only.
Yeah.
right, I think that's part of the nuance. For my motion, I was just wanting to pick up the length of time for the certificates and
That
the
was my
renewal.
understanding as well, as long as that was.
Right. And then I do have one other question, as a matter of fact. So when you were reading, it's U1, you mentioned that Mr. Solzman asked to have the wording to number 1, the 2017 Ohio Fire Code, and any subsequent updates to that code. Do I need to include adding that language into the motion, or is that just going to be an amendment you made already?
You're more than welcome to it. Be appreciated if you did, just to have it to be part of the official recommendation to the Board of Trustees.
Okay, then I'll include the language for any subsequent updates made to that code to U, which is umbrella 1.
Thank you, Ms. McMullen.
Now, I think that's my long motion.
No, I'm going to ask you to repeat it verbatim.
I'm up for the challenge. No, do you need that?
I think it would be wise if we just clarify.
Okay, so I'd like to make a motion to approve ZA 2021-07, the zoning text amendment for mobile food service. And that's with the addition to Hamilton County regulation of the length of the certificate in 11-9, 4.1, page 11-3. Then with the additional clarification to section U1 with adding a clarification that any subsequent updates is also included.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
You get the gold star for today.
All right.
I'll second it.
Okay, you initially
You have to
seconded that,
repeat
Tom.
it.
No, oh, I have to say
You re-second that?
I re-second it.
Okay,
Thank you.
all right. Any further discussion, commissioners? Everybody understand the motion at hand? Okay, may we have a roll call, Mr. Ailey?
Mr. Ferring,
Yes.
Ms. McMullen,
Yes.
Mr. Westfall,
Aye.
Mr. Gehring,
Yes.
Mr. Grody.
Yes. So the motion carries along with those two additions, and Mr. Faring, I'm assuming you'll pass that paperwork on to Mr.
Yes.
Haley, his use, okay? Okay, moving on to the next item, ZA 2021-08. There is a request from Mr. Ailey to withdraw an item, but I think he has some additional information that he'd like to share with us before we proceed on that.
Thank you, sir. So what this is requesting is basically, this is a new guy error. I had put out a legal ad regarding this case prior to preparing the resolution for the Board of Trustees to initiate the zoning commission to review proposed text. So talked to the township administrator. One had to eat some crow, which that's all right. But basically, the gist of the conversation was, it's generally a little more cumbersome to prepare a resolution, submit to the Board of Trustees, for them to just to certify it right back to us. So I would just request, if the zoning commission would see fit, to propose a motion instructing staff to prepare a text amendment to regulate charitable donation containers. We've received a few complaints regarding a lot of unregulated dumping near the mattresses, sofas, items that won't fit. Just to clarify, if you have or have not seen the charitable donation containers, usually fairly large, somewhere between 4 and 5 feet in width, 5, 6, 7 feet tall, or they can vary. But basically, just to, again, it's been brought to light. There's a problem the community wants us to handle, and just asking the zoning commission to make a motion to instruct me to prepare a text amendment to present at the next meeting in January.
Okay. Just to clarify in my mind, Mr. Ailig, you're talking about the huge boxes for clothing, appliances, those types of things.
Yes, sir.
You're not talking about the Salvation Army kettle or anything like that?
No, sir.
Okay.
No. There will be a dimension description in there to help designate, delineate, describe the containers we're talking about.
Okay. All right. Commissioners, I'm not asking for a motion yet on what Mr. Ailig is asking us, but is there discussion, comment directed to Mr. Ailig?
So moved.
Okay, well, we haven't moved anything yet.
He's quick on the trigger, sir.
So, Mr. Solomon, I think this is another one that we have to do the public hearing?
No, I think you can go ahead, and it would just be a recommendation from the commission to
Okay.
him. Obviously, I think there'll be a time and place for the public hearing
Later on,
when it's proposed to you, and then ultimately when you
okay?
present it to the trustees with your, I guess, recommendations.
Okay, thank you. With not needing a public hearing, then Chair will entertain a motion for Mr. Ailig's request, as he had stated up on the screen there.
I'll make a motion to approve that for ZA 2021-08.
Second.
Okay, is there any discussion about this motion or any clarification needed?
May I speak, sir?
Yes, sir?
It will be a different case number. It'll be a ZA 2022-01. It'll be
Okay.
the first case of the new year. So just, pardon me for that part, clarification, I should have had that in there.
Anything else? Hearing none, may we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Ferry?
Yes.
Ms. McMullen?
Yes.
Mr. Westfall?
Aye.
Mr. Gehring?
Yes.
And Mr. Grody?
Yes, okay. Okay, we are moving on, and folks, thank you for your patience out there. The next case is ZA 2021-09. It's a zoning map amendment in relation to 2 parcels on Springdale Road, being requested to change from PDR Plan Development Residential to B-2 General Business. Does staff have a presentation?
I do, sir. And just to clarify, those are the 2 addressed parcels. There is a 3rd parcel that is unaddressed, just to clarify, which will be evident in the presentation, sir. So, as Mr. Grody said, this is case ZA 2021-09, a zoning map amendment, or if anyone is aware, it's 2 vacant parcels just to the east of Colerain Avenue, located on Springdale Road. Okay, here, pretty much right in the center of the business district of the township. As we move in here, that little red pin, if you can see on the map, designates the spot. You see Colerain Avenue, right north and south, Springdale running basically east and west. So just a little bit east of Colerain, a little bit south of Springdale there. Again, just a little bit closer, zoom in. These are the 3 parcels. They were presented to the board to the commission in 2019 as a planned development residential. And just to give a little bit of zoning right now, this is one of the elements that I'm attempting to discover and address. If you were to look on CAGIS right now, Cincinnati Area Geographical Information System, these parcels appear to be Zone B2, Business 2. They are not, based on the previous reference, 2019 case presented to the zoning commission, where they were rezoned. As everyone knows, there's a little bit of turnover in our department, and some things kind of got misplaced or weren't done exactly how we'd like them to do in the future. It's my intent in the future, moving forward, is to start gaining some momentum here to make sure that these scenarios don't happen. This is what it should appear on CAGIS as, and this is based on the resolution from the Board of Trustees affirming the zoning commission's decision. Again, it is zone PDR from a case in 2019. This is just an aerial view of what's the parcel right now. I'll go through these a little quick. If you need me to stop, please let me know. Again, just zooming in closer. These are the 3 parcels. A little bit of an overview, sort of looking south, sort of if you were down Colerain Avenue, sort of a bird's eye view of the parcels there. Google Street View of what basically exists there right now, just a vacant parcel. Here's as we sort of rotate to the left there, just some general business in the area. A vacant, I believe there's a bank there, if I'm not mistaken, in the past. Still a vacant structure. And then some dentist's office, but just general business in the area. A restaurant down the street there would be Arby's, and then White Castle is immediately adjacent to the corner of Springdale and Colerain Avenue. And then moving back towards the parcel we're discussing, you'd pass Arby's, and then also the entrance there to some other small businesses. Here is a plot plan that was proposed in the 2019 case presented to the board. This was for an assisted living center for seniors, I believe. If I'm not mistaken, we should have a lot of members in attendance here who preside over that case. This is just a rendering of what the proposed facility is going to look like. And here is just a copy of the 2 front pages of the resolution from the Board of Trustees affirming the decision that was made by the zoning commission to rezone that. That's just to show that it is in fact zone PDR, just in case there were any questions or anything. So how did we end up in this spot here? Well, in our zoning resolution, there is text for the time limit. If a final development plan has been submitted within 1 year of approval of the preliminary development plan, the approval of the preliminary development plan will expire and the plan will be deemed null and void. The developer of this property, the developer of the proposed project, pardon me, not the developer of the property, I believe it's my understanding was not able to ascertain state financing or grants to make this project happen. The time period has elapsed, so any approved preliminary development plans are null and void per our zoning resolution. So what we're left with as a community is a parcel that has been approved to be a planned development residential with a few specific conditions, generally for a very specific use, if that makes sense. So we're kind of locked in. We have a planned development residential parcel with a pretty specific conditions for approval that are, in staff's opinion, unlikely to randomly sort of fall from the skies anytime soon, just to sort of give my 2 cents on that. And then the proposal tonight would be to rezone these 3 parcels from PDR to B2, the general business district designation, in a process to establish and build a Dairy Queen there. I'm going to make an assumption that zoning commissioners are familiar with Dairy Queen. If you're not, please let me know, and I'll do my best to fill you in, although I believe there's some people in attendance who could do a much better job of that than I could. I do like their ice cream, I will say that, in moderation. And then here's just a little bit of the renderings presented. It's my understanding this is sort of the corporate drawing that Dairy Queen would present, just to give zoning commission an idea of what is being planned to be there should zoning commission vote either for approval, denial, or whatever you see fit for this property. And then included here is just an email to Ms. Tracy Hawkins that just, it's a simple formality saying that she is an authorized agent for the property owner, just so I could include that. That was also, should have been on your desk there. Again, the approval criteria for zoning amendment is found in section 4.34 of the zoning resolution. And I've read this before, but so I'll just kind of breeze over it. But generally, the amendment, it should be in accordance with the Colerain Township Comprehensive Plan, the township's land use plan, and adopted plans and policies of the township, this resolution, and as adopted by the Board of Township Trustees. Then where more than one zoning district is available to implement the comprehensive plan or land use designation, the applicant must justify the particular zoning being sought and show that it's the best suited for the specific site based upon the policies of the Colerain Township Comprehensive Plan. The B2 zoning designation is our preferred designation on large arterial, heavily trafficked areas. So this would meet both sets of the criteria there for approval. And that concludes the presentation on that.
Okay. Commissioners, any questions, comments, et cetera, for Mr. Ailig on this matter?
One of the biggest issues I have is that I'm trying to control my weight now. If you put a DQ close proximity, okay, of course I'm joking.
Well, I believe the owner's in attendance tonight. We can definitely have him upcharge you to help dissuade you.
There you go, that'll help. That'll help.
You think you got problems? We go by it twice a day, every day.
I just for posterity's sake, just to clarify, we're only talking about rezoning the parcel tonight. That would allow, again, in the scenario we're in, where we have this kind of locked in this PDR that probably isn't going to happen. Someone could come back and apply for a planned development residential under major modifications to the zoning commission. So it's not useless land by any means. However, even if, although hopefully I'm not saying one way or the other, if your wishes came true, so we could help both watch our weight a little bit, and the Dairy Queen did not go through, we would be left with parcels that are zone B2. In my opinion, staff's opinion, it would give us a lot more flexibility and align better with the area.
Mr. Ailig, is it your understanding that the current owner of the property is the same as the owner when this Gateway Senior Lofts was being proposed?
It is my understanding that the current owner of the property is the same owner that was there when Gateway Senior Lofts was proposed.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, okay.
And then I thought, just to kind of come back and touch base, granted that it is the same owner, although not anyone attends tonight, as far as I'm aware. The applicant in attendance tonight is an authorized agent for the owner for this document. Just want to clarify that. I apologize.
Commissioners, again, a request, any other comments, questions, observations for Mr. Ailig? Okay, I will ask for a motion for opening the public hearing, and a second on that, please.
So moved.
Who moved? I heard two voices. Tom,
I second.
second, okay. Any discussion on that motion? Mr. Ailig, may we have a roll call?
Mr. Ferring? Ms. McMullen?
Yes.
Mr. Westfall?
I,
Mr. Gehring?
Yes.
Mr. Grody?
Yes. Before we entertain any speakers, Mr. Solomon, would you like to swear in anybody who's going to speak to this issue tonight?
Sure, I'll go ahead and, you intend to speak, please raise your right hand. Swear to tell the truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Okay, I think there are more than just one person. There are three or four names on the list.
Oh, if anyone else intends to speak on behalf of this issue.
Everybody's deferring to you? Okay, so if you would, please approach the podium, and could you please state your name, your address, and could you please spell your last name for our records purposes?
Certainly. My name is Tracy Hawkins, Hawkins. I'm with the law firm of Coors and Bassett at 201 East 5th Street, Suite 900, Cincinnati, Ohio, 45202.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're
and
welcome.
The floor is yours.
Thank Thank you. To answer your earlier question, Rumpke has owned this property since 1973. I have copies of the title deed if anybody's interested in those. I brought those for you all. So yes, the same owner as the prior submittal. Really, I just wanted to say, I think Mr. Ehrlich had made a very solid presentation about why this is a good move. But, in further of the approval criteria, not only does it conform to your proposed economic development plan, we're looking at the prior use and, it's the preferred designation of B2. We have a predictable performance. We have some metrics that the franchisor and franchisees would normally go through to determine whether this would be a successful location. This is a family-oriented business. I'm sorry if you're going to have too many of the ice creams. I'm sitting over there getting hungry listening about it. And it's going to serve the neighboring landowners as well as the traffic. It does bring employment opportunities to the community. And our franchisor has very strict regulations regarding the aesthetics of the building. And most of all, you have an experienced operator who would be coming in to own this property and develop it for use as the Dairy Queen.
So meaning somebody is a current restaurateur?
Yes, somebody who knows what they're doing and what not to do. And that's really all I have. Mr. Ehrlich had really set forth, the gist of what we were trying to present to you, and just in furtherance, that's what we submit. And if you have any questions, we're here to answer.
Commissioners? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Just to make sure, I also have a John and Helen Owsley. Were you planning to present, or did? Okay, all right. And then Ali, I can't read the last name. You're okay with the presentation given? Okay. Is there anybody else that did not make it on the list? Hearing none, then I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing, please.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Okay. Any further discussion on that motion? May we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Ferrin?
Yes.
Ms. McMullen?
Yes.
Mr. Westfall?
Aye.
Mr. Garing?
Yes.
Mr. Grody?
Yes. Okay, and at this point, hearing no further discussion from commissioners, the chair will entertain a motion regarding this matter.
I'll make a motion to approve case ZA 2021-09 zoning map amendment.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve KZA 2021-09 for the requested zoning change. Any further discussion or question? Just one, Mr. Ehrlich, and perhaps Mr. Solomon would more be appropriate to respond. Once they bring a preliminary development plan before us, there will then be another public hearing on that
That's
preliminary
correct, as far as
development
the
plan.
DD. This is just related to,
The
as
zoning
Ellie
part.
talked about, the zoning,
Yep.
rezoning back to B2.
Okay, yeah,
If I may, sir, at the point we rezone this property to B2, given that a restaurant is a use by right in a B2, the applicant will not be required to come in front of the zoning commission.
okay,
So I just want to make that clear. They will still have to abide by all of our zoning resolution for a commercial application.
okay,
If there's any
Landscape,
variances that they want.
Exactly. If they were to propose a plan that did not fit what the community set forth in the zoning resolution, they would appear before the Board of Zoning Appeals to request a variance.
okay.
So I just want to make sure that that's out there and clear, sir.
Commissioners, you all comfortable with that?
Yes.
Okay. Any further comments or discussion? Hearing none, can we please have a motion?
Mr. Ferrin?
Yes.
Ms. McMullen?
Yes.
Mr. Westfall?
Aye.
Mr. Garing?
Yes.
Mr. Grody?
Yes. Okay, the motion passes. Stop down and get a DQ.
We are very excited about being able to get this started. This was step one so that we can proceed with the transaction.
Okay. Well, thank you for coming this
Thank
evening.
you.
Apologize for the wait, but
No, thank
All right, Mr. Ailig, moving on, any item 6, informal concept review?
No, sir.
Item 7, old business.
No, sir.
Item 8, new business.
No, sir.
Item 9,
Yes, sir.
approval of the commission meeting schedule that was in your packet. Hopefully, everybody saw that.
If not, I have it on the presentation right here. Should be pretty standard. Every meeting falls on the third Tuesday of the month. Double check that, just verify, but there's no deviation. Just want to run it past the commission to make sure I have your approval to set that, publish that. No one sees any issues, that kind of thing.
Do you need a motion on this, or is this just informational?
I
I think a motion is set for.
Okay, may we have a motion, please, on this matter?
I'll make a motion to approve the 2022, which just seems strange to say, Colerain Township Zoning Commission meeting schedule.
Okay, a second?
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? May we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Ferring,
Yes.
Ms. McMullen,
Yes,
Mr. Westfall,
Aye.
Mr. Garing,
Yes.
Mr. Grody.
Yes. Okay, any announcements, Mr. Ailig?
If you wouldn't mind, may I deviate from what I wrote down here?
Sure.
Okay. Congratulations to you, sir, on being appointed by the Board of Trustees to the next term. And then we do have a new alternate joining us. Mr. Wilson was kind enough to fill a unforeseen vacancy on the Board of Zoning Appeals as a member there. And Mr. Bachman has been appointed as an alternate member to the Zoning Commission, starting next year. As you said, Mr. McMullen, it does sound odd, in 2022, in about a week and a half. So that's an informal announcement, sir.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners, any comments anyone would like to share?
no,
Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
Thank you, Tom. I'm glad you said it. I was about to say it, so,
Hope everybody has a great
Hey, Al, I
Christmas
do
and
have
a
one
great
thing.
New Year.
okay.
Is there any way of getting this stuff out to us a little sooner?
Absolutely.
You know, we get this on Friday and our meeting's on Tuesday.
Yeah.
There's no good excuse for that. It was a crazy month.
It's not just you, it's gotten this way for the last,
That's not
2
too bad.
years.
That's not too bad. Unfortunately, that's just, you know.
I will say, the minutes not being, I had some technical issues posting things online. All to say, absolutely, I will do better going forward. This month kind of got me. There's a lot, and I poured through as quick as I could.
there's a lot of times we actually, believe it or not, go out and look at some of this stuff, and
Absolutely.
I had to drive by to see if that trailer wasn't there today.
And on the same
Well,
vein.
and I don't know that you necessarily should do that, because a lot of times, an issue sometimes is the record is what is presented at the meeting. So a lot of times you shouldn't be going out and looking at stuff. I'm not saying, sometimes it happens, but maybe not so far, because then you would have additional information and maybe make decisions on things that weren't presented properly, if that makes sense.
I thought it was up to me and every other board member when we have something, we should investigate that and look at it and.
I believe we do have a little bit of language or orientation, just to sort of address this real fast, where any commission or board of zoning appeals member, zoning commission board, you are by all means allowed to, just, you're not allowed to converse with anyone there, explain who you are, what you're doing, just to kind of mitigate that. I understand Mr. Solman's side, but again, I would assume if it's available or, viewable from the street, that kind of thing.
Oh, I'm not talking stopping and talking to anybody, but a lot
Of
of
course
times
not.
we get things
Right
on,
by.
Of course not.
setbacks, sidewalks, things like that, and so we try to go out and take a look at that.
If I may, all that is my fault. Again, I should have got the packets out sooner. I did deliver them.
which,
Not,
by the way, thank you for doing
Yes,
that on a
thank you.
Saturday.
wow. Some days,
If they're ever
that's the only
ready.
day I can, the phone doesn't stop. Not to try and make terrible, weak excuses. That was how the cookie crumbled this month. We'll get ahead of the ball. There's a steep learning curve here, at times. So, I appreciate your patience.
I'm not on you at all about this. I mean, it's not just you. This has been the last 3 years probably. It's gotten worse and worse and worse. I remember a fella came in here 6 years ago to get approval, and he had to have everything turned in a month ahead of time because we had to have it 2 weeks prior to the meeting, or it went on to the next meeting. And that's gotten shorter and shorter and shorter, and now they're dropping off at my door on Friday night and Saturdays or whenever, you know.
I did camp out at your house, sir, just to, but I'm teasing. Please tell me, would 1 week prior to the meeting be acceptable to the zoning commission? Sort of set that deadline to me.
For me,
and
it would.
Come
Yeah, that gives us some time.
high water, I'll be in here Saturday to make it happen. So, or, delivery to the field Saturday to make it
Right,
happen.
and just to go on record, I work from home, I live very close. I can come pick them up. So you don't have to ring my doorbell.
I didn't know as far as if I was supposed to have contact with you before, and
No, I know.
You could just drop mine off at the DQ once it gets built.
there you go. It'll be a delivered for you, sir. Thank you very much, and,
I'm holding out for Culver, so.
just to clarify, we will have a meeting in January. I know you won't be here, Mr. Grody.
Correct.
Is there anyone else who,
I gotta check. I'm not sure. I will give you a call when I'll check.
just be call,
I
email?
will be out of town. I'm not sure what days.
I will be not here for the February meeting.
Perfect. And then February is when we'll make new appointments, is that correct? Is that, if I read your bylaws correctly, February is the administrative?
Typically, it's been in January,
Okay,
but
okay.
sometimes we haven't had the meeting, or all of us aren't there, or something like that.
Perfect.
So
Whatever you
like
tell me
in
to do.
January, if the rest of the commission wants to go along with
Maybe,
organizationally,
maybe February, it states when it takes effect, maybe, I'm sorry.
Basically, Mr. Gertie doesn't show up in January and we appoint him as president.
Thank you so much, thank you for your time, and really thank you, commission members for harping on me, not harping, I shouldn't say that, but for not letting us pass a substandard ordinance at that last meeting. It wasn't ready, I wasn't ready, I apologize, I hope we gave a better product this time, and just so we can serve the community.
Yeah, you did a great job on it.
I have
so
to
thank you.
commend you on the mobile food thing. That was a lot better.
Yeah.
It was
Very
all based on
detailed.
your feedback, so the process worked, so I'm thankful for that. Thank you, members, I appreciate it.
We need a motion to adjourn, please.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Abstain? Noes? Let's go home.
Have a good evening, thank you. And Merry Christmas, Happy New Year.